Awesome. Hello, everyone. For those attending for the first time, I do see a few new faces. My name is Patrick Donovan, and I'm one of the co-founders of Space Cooperative, the company that is behind Space Decentral. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to be here today. Our agenda today will mostly consist of the presentation and discussion of our white paper, with a heavy focus on the part that's designed to empower everyone on Space Decentral, which is governance. Before we dive into that white paper discussion, though, I do see a few new faces. So please introduce yourselves. And as a suggestion, we can go alphabetical by the current login name, if you like. So without further ado, some introductions.
I think you should call on people, Patrick.
Sure. How about Saurav Karmakar?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Saurav and I'm from India. And I'm the founder and head of Infinance Technologies. And also I do, I lead actually two international aerospace chapters in India. So basically I want to know the meeting, what are the topics are going to be organized here and how I can develop things as per the discussion happened before. So nice to meet you all. Hope for the best in the meeting. Thank you.
Great, thanks for the introduction. Camille Musica?
Yeah, Camilles Musica. Well, I'm a PhD candidate at the Polish Academy of Sciences. My specialty is space mining and space manufacturing law, basically the governance law and the actual IP law, the intellectual property, mostly patents involving space manufactured products. I also I am also a co-host of the service called Prawo I Kosmos, the Law and Outer Space, which actually provides some advice and opinions on our national Polish space law and international space law, and also on the American legislation.
Awesome, thanks, Camille. Then next would be Justin, I believe Justin Park.
Yeah, hi, my name is Justin Park. I have a educational software company called Intergalactic Education. We make STEM software for high school and middle school kids. We've got an emphasis on teaching kids about the importance of space exploration, as well as trying to get more women into the STEM fields. I am based out of Washington, D.C. I'll be at the Satellite 2018 conference next week. If anyone's around for that, please let me know. I'd love to meet you in person.
Great, thanks, Justin. And then next is Eric Kulu. I've seen you on Telegram, actually, but I think this is the first meeting you've been to.
Hi, everyone. Yes, so I'm Eric. I studied physics, but I have been doing lots of CubeSats, including the first satellite of Estonia, and yeah, live in Scotland now, and would be nice to explore some other space areas.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Next would be Arthur De Roe, and I've also spoken with you briefly on Telegram. Please introduce yourself. Arthur? Maybe there's an audio issue. And then I see Athena once again. Good to have you back. Going down the list would be Travas. Travas? Okay, how about Andy Gonzalez?
Andy Gonzalez is here.
Hey, Andy, how's it going?
Okay, it took me a while to figure out how to get the audio working. I thought it was going to be on my computer microphone, but apparently I have to dial in. Is that correct?
Oh, that's weird. Next time we should disable the dial-in. It should work with the computer as well.
Hey, Andy, my question here. Were you at Vercel in 2015 at Copernicus?
No, it was not.
Oh, sorry.
So is my video image coming through?
No, we don't see a video. You would have to hit the icon at the bottom of the window that has the video, the camera icon.
So apparently I'm still learning how to use this then.
That's fine.
Okay, no matter.
Great. Well, thanks for the introductions, everyone. I'd like to also introduce you all to Yalda Musavinia. She is the driving force behind the founding of Space Cooperative. She'll be presenting the current version of the white paper, and I'm sure quite a few of you will have comments or questions while she's presenting. I encourage you to save them for the discussion period afterwards, and if it helps, to write them down in the meantime. Without further ado, Yalda.
Hi there. Yeah, so as Patrick said, if you have questions, you can actually just type them into the chat, and then after the presentation is over, we can start to go through them. And please realize that this is, a draft. This is an initial proposal of how the governance of the network would work. So just want to be clear, it's not the governance of the space colonies. It could be. But to begin with, it's more how is decision making going to work within the Space Decentral network, and how is work going to be prioritized and valued. So that's a little bit more background, and I shared the white paper with everyone that provided the email. So in the the section that we're going through right now is going to be section 5, essentially. And let me start to present. Let's see, share screen. Okay. Does everyone see the presentation right now?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. So if you look in section 5, there's a table that describes different roles within the ecosystem. And this is just broken apart so we know kind of what the value proposition or what the privileges are of different people within the network. So some of these things we're still, working out. For example, a member of the network is someone that would be contributing time and actually, I feel like I want to actually just get into the white paper because there is. Sorry, I want to start off and talk about what the 2 tokens are before we start talking about the privileges. So basically, the Space Decentral network is a 2-token ecosystem. We have a SDN token in addition to an FTL token. And essentially, sorry that this is a little slow. Essentially, the reason that we have the 2 different tokens is because there are kind of different privileges or different, different, I guess it's there's kind of you have an ecosystem and there are 2 different kind of organs of it. They communicate with each other, but they're different. So the SDN token, that is primarily used in our task management system, and it'll be used to value tasks. So our network is going to be an open source network for a lot of the work that we do, for a lot of the work that we can do in an open source manner. We know that with aerospace, there are a lot of regulations, especially, if we're US citizens, ITAR, all of that. But
Yep.
a lot of mission design, planning, things like that. We know that we're at least safe on the conceptual angle. And that's where a lot of the early work with distributing the SDN tokens can happen, kind of more in the planning and proposal phase. So this is as we're starting to get started with a project like Luna City, for example, and we create a project plan, and the project plan can have tasks. So those tasks can have different amounts of SDN associated to them, which can be kind of like pegged to the US dollar in ways, because whenever we want to estimate what the value of that task is, we do have to have something in our mind for what that might be worth. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can go and sell your SDN on the open market and get like a US dollar for it. This is more of an internal accounting tool that's used to measure your sweat equity within the network. So it'll later come into play for like rewards. So that's kind of like the purpose of SDN. It's a way to track how much each person contributes, mentally toward the network. And that will have to be done using a task management system that has these actual tokens attached to the tasks. So whenever you complete the task, you collect the SDN token. So this is where the cryptocurrency comes into play and why it's important. The other token is the faster than light token, or the FTL token. And essentially, this is the token that people would get for financially contributing to the network. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard about, ICOs, crowd sales, that sort of thing. So if someone contributes to the crowd sale, they will get an FTL token. And the FTL token provides a very unique governance privilege that relates to determining the Space Decentral program. So I want to go through and show some of that right now in the presentation. So, okay, so I'm just going to go through this visual example of FTL and how it might work. So you see Susie, Kevin, Patrick, and myself, and we each have different amounts of FTL. Pretend like one block is one FTL, but in reality, it might be much more than that. So Susie has 2 FTL, Kevin 1, Patrick 3, and I have 6. And this is how long we've been holding the FTL. I've had it for 1 year. Susie has had it for 3 years. Kevin for 4 years, but Patrick for 2 years. And what you see there to the right is there's some additional FTL. So there's this other unique property. For the longer that you hold the FTL, the higher voting power you will have. So your FTL power is how much you've held multiplied by time. And then how does this translate to the network and to governance? So within the network, we'll have different programs, like an Earth program, a Moon program, a Mars program, and users will be able to vote with their FTL where we think the projects and tasks should be developed. So essentially, you see before, like this is the voting power that each person has, and you can decide to distribute your voting power to the different programs. So you might say, well, I want, a little bit of Earth, Moon, Mars, or like Patrick, you might say, I want all of my voting power to go to Mars. Or you might just say, I'm more of an Earth, Moon person. So basically each person can use range voting to provide their input for what the program of the network should be. So assuming that our network only has 3 programs, this is just a hypothetical scenario. This is what it would turn out to based on these votes. Essentially, we have about 28% of our program's budget would go towards Earth, 23% or 24% towards the Moon, and about 48% towards Mars. So basically, you use your FTL to determine what your program should be. And now that you have that, you can determine essentially how the tasks would be evaluated. So now that you know, okay, we have 28% for Earth, 24% for the Moon, 48% for Mars. Whenever we're developing our project plans for each one, for each program, we know, and then we know how many people in our network want to contribute towards them. then we can like really direct the work in that direction. So basically there's an incentive to financially contribute if you want to help direct the program level decisions, but it's not a necessity to purchase the FTL and do this program level vote. There will also be ways for users in the network to earn FTL without purchasing it. And that will be through different, project development processes. Okay. So basically, the way that the project development process would work within the network is there might be actually two different phases. One is you might have a more cooperative phase in the beginning, like right now when our network is small. We don't imagine that people are going to be developing proposals with like a team of like one person to say, this is what I think we should do. That might be the case. People might have different proposal ideas that they want to submit. But in these early phases, we might be more in the RFP definition, for example, like perhaps we're starting to develop an RFP so other people can submit those proposals. But this is not meant to be something that's super rigid. This is a proposal for how the process can work, but it's not necessarily a requirement. But basically, if our network grows to a stage where there's not really, like people aren't in consensus with which proposal for a program that we should fund, it would need to go through a competitive phase similar to how like government funding works for space programs. So essentially within the network, there can be like an idea sourcing phase, kind of like this is in the stage I feel like we're at right now. And then you start to vet the ideas, and then based on the member votes, you can select like the best ideas or the ideas that we think are most important that fit into the programs, and then you develop a RFP or a request for proposals for those ideas. So this is where it really starts to get into, okay, we have a project for the Mars program, whether it's like let's send a rover to Mars or something like that, for example. And then the solution sourcing phase, people within the network, members or non-members, can form teams to submit the proposals, and then it would go through a peer review process, and then and then the solution would be vetted, and then after that, like each solution kind of has a seal of approval or engines on, and that's when the crowdfunding can be further open for the mission. So we don't think that it should be that teams are actually competing in the development of the projects. We think that they should be just competing in the proposal aspect, and then there is consensus formed on what the best proposal is, and that's when the mission is opened up for funding. So now I want to talk about the roles more. So basically, members will be required to purchase potentially some small amount of FTL, or they have potentially earned it through completing tasks as well. We don't want to make that a high requirement. It might be something like $50 or $100. That's something that we actually want to talk to you, the community, about and see what you think makes sense. And then the other aspect of becoming a member, like becoming a voting member, will be to complete tasks and earn SDN. So sorry if this is a little bit disorganized. I'm just got off a plane from Barcelona and was not fully prepared with the sequence of the slides. But basically, the FTL votes for the programs, that is the only vote within the ecosystem that is based on the amount of tokens that you have. Everything else after that, like selecting the best solution, will be more democratic, like one person, one vote. So that's why being a member would be important, is if you want to participate in basically all of the other governance in the network. If you want to have that one vote on things, whether it's, deciding to create a new committee, nominating yourself to be on the council, voting for people who are on the council, developing the governance, developing and enhancing what these governance processes are. So like I said, what's presented in the white paper is an initial template of a governance process, and people that become members will be able to influence the governance to become upgraded. So since we are a digital network, there are different things that we need to be aware of, since it's one person, one vote, we don't want people to just like sign up for accounts and try to get like 10 votes, even though they're only one person. So that's why having some kind of a verified identity would be important. We don't think that requires requiring private details, but it can be things like, oh, this person has showed up to our community meetings, they've contributed to our forum, they've completed some tasks. We can verify that that person is unique. So we think that that's kind of like the best way to determine uniqueness in the early stages. It can be things like people that have showed up to the meetings and contributed to the forums and completed tasks and potentially had some kind of like a video chat. So that's our initial way to verify identity in the beginning. And then so we foresee that, you'll have your profile on the network and you'll have like a check mark similar to Twitter that, okay, you're a verified person. So then after you've like reached that membership level, we do think that this a council would be important for this network, because as the user base grows, as the complexity of the projects and proposals grow, and the competition between ideas start to occur, you're going to need some kind of body, some people that have a lot of experience reviewing proposals that are committing to putting in the time to review them. Because if we really are thinking about missions to the moon or the Mars, those proposals might be about 500 pages or 1,000 pages in length, and we don't really expect everyone in the network that's a member to be able to read or comprehend the entirety of the proposals. So this is why having some kind of a council will be important. It might not be important, next month, but this is one reason why we do want to start to grow the community of members now, so we can start to see, okay, well, who actually would want to potentially be a council member, and to get the input of a potential council member. So whenever the elections occur, later in the year, that we're all on the same page with how the governance process works. So I'd be curious to know, after people read the white paper, if being on the council is something that intrigues you. So please let us know. Okay, so then the other aspect that I was describing were the project teams. And if you read the project development process, essentially our project teams, they're competing to win the RFP bounties. So people can win FTL by just submitting proposals, project plans, and the ones that get selected by the council members to get added to the space program, that's where you would win RFP. That's where you would win the RFP bounty. So you don't even have to complete the development of the project to win the bounty there. So that's why we want to actually incentivize people who might just have a lot of experience writing project plans or mission mission designs, but they're not really part of a company that wants to fully develop it, but perhaps they want to offer that skill to the network. It can go both ways. They might just be someone that's really good at writing these proposals, or they might be a company that does want to fulfill and develop it. There's no requirement that the winning proposal needs to be developed by the person that submits the proposal. So we want to actually keep it open, and even like for the project team that's submitting it to win, we do want to have as many aspects of it open source as possible. So even after a team wins a contract, there can be percentages of it that the rest of the network can contribute towards developing. The other role I want to describe is an apprentice. So essentially, an apprentice is someone that's contributing to the ecosystem by completing tasks, and they're earning the SDN tokens, but they're not a full member yet. So it's just like someone that's on the track to being a member. As soon as they earn a certain amount of SDN and have a verified identity and have like deposited some FTL, that's when they can become a member, and that gives them a voting share. And then we're just calling the FTL, the people that purchase FTL but they aren't members, we're calling those angels for now. And then an affiliate is a non-member that might pay a subscription fee to utilize services of the network. For example, if as a network we develop a lot of software, let's say we start making like more advanced spacecraft simulation software or mission engineering software, and just start to compete in that market. An affiliate might just be someone that's utilizing some of our services, whether it's software or operating some of our spacecrafts if we get to that level, or even someone that wants to kind of use consulting tools that or later in our roadmap. But since we are a professional development network that's going to be catered towards a specific industry, it can potentially be a hub where people are coming to find experts that need help on projects that are external toward the Space Decentral network. So then this describes some of the voting privileges for like the member and the council members, because like I said, these are like the main roles that would have voting within the network, besides just like the FTL holder for the program level decisions. But as a member, you can determine the project ideas to develop into RFPs, determine the percentage of tokens to allocate to the RFPs. You can upgrade the governance variables. By that, I mean things like the voting percentages or the bounty percentages. Some of those are listed at the end of the white paper in the appendix. You can nominate and elect committee members. So we'll be starting off with one committee, the council, but we imagine that we will start to need multiple committees, similar to if you think of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, how they have a lot of different committees for different types of different subject matters, and then increasing the supply of SDN or FTL tokens. Arbitration related to committees. So by arbitration, it's like resolving disputes. If we think that someone's being bribed to vote for a specific Mars mission or something, someone can bring up a proposal, hey, we need to do some arbitration because that person is being bribed, like if there's some kind of evidence there. Sensitive high-level infrastructure decisions, for example, it might be deciding to upgrade our token into another blockchain, for example. And then the council members, they would vote on the best solutions to the RFPs that become validated for funding, and then potentially arbitration related to members and apprentices. So some of the stuff is still being worked out, and we would love to hear your feedback on it. The white paper describes it in a lot more detail. But before we have the council, essentially, the voting on the best solutions for RFPs will come from the members. So the council will be something that happens once the membership class determines that it's necessary. So we foresee that as, probably later in the year, assuming our network grows. Okay, so then I went through this process before, and this kind of shows the RFP is developed. Then you have the two project teams. They submit it for peer review. Peer reviewers submit grades for the different solutions, and that helps the council, filter out and select the best solutions. And then I went through the FTL. Okay, So then the other aspect that happens within our network is the more cooperative open source development. And we would ideally like to do as much of it in a cooperative and open manner as possible. So this is how we see the phase one, like right now where we're at, and how we can treat a project like Luna City is in this more open source manner, because we think the competitive aspect should only come into play once we think it's necessary. Like if we aren't able to collaborate on things together, or if it's a sensitive export control topic that can't be open source, that's where the competitive aspect that I described previously comes into play. But ideally, we would like to do as much as we can in an open source and cooperative manner. And the sequence of events essentially is we would have to have, ideally, if we have someone in the network that can help with the project plan, we can have the project plan first. And then from the project plan, you can start at the top and start doing the task breakdown, like the work breakdown structure. So you start with the task planning section, and then you might do planning poker to estimate effort, and that's an agile methodology where you meet with the team of stakeholders that are working on the tasks, and you estimate how long the task will take, and then based on that estimate of how long it takes, you can actually determine what the bounties are. So I can go into that here a little bit. So the SDN of the task would be the minimum wage that we decide is the Space Decentral minimum wage multiplied by a skill level, and then that was the estimated time that we come to consensus on, and then a priority level. So this is just an initial template. We can expand these skill levels or priority levels if we think that's important. We can update these multiplier values as well. And essentially these are governance decisions. These are like member governance decisions for how we decide, okay, well, what is the Space Decentral minimum wage? How many levels of expertise should we have? Essentially, the maximum wage is it's like, in this case, it's 3x, because you have expert is 3x. But we might say, well, maybe we should have a 5x multiplier. So those are the types of decisions that we'll be making as a network. And like I said before, this is not the SDN. It's not real currency that you'd be able to trade on the market. It's more of an internal way to track the sweat equity of the contributors. So whenever revenue does come into the picture, we know how it would get distributed to the workers of the network. So that's essentially what the SDN does, is we can see who has put in the most time. So if something does get commercialized, then where the revenue should go. And then the other aspect of it would be, okay, well, we want to make sure that people aren't just saying they completed a task and didn't do anything and just gaming the system to earn the SDN. So there will have to be someone that's helping review the work and giving a quality rating on that task or on the completion of that work. So if someone had a quality rating of like 0.5 or below, then the work gets rejected and they don't earn any SDN. But for 0.8 and above, there is a multiplier applied to that. And like I said, these are proposed processes, and they are open to upgrading. So how do we start to make things more automated? Because we might have a lot of people that are trying to potentially complete the same task, and then people would have to make decisions for, okay, well, who should work on that task? Should it be like Bob or Sherry? So a reputation type metric will help make that that selection of who works on it more automated. It can be something that, okay, well, we know that this person has that skill level because they've completed the past 20 tasks with a high quality rating, and those 20 tasks were at that skill level. So obviously this task should go toward that person. So this reputation, will give someone a score from like 0 to 1 maximum, where 1 is the highest, and it'll basically help in those situations where where we need to determine if that person is like qualified to work on that task. So this will help with more of the automation and removing, intermediaries that have to like select who works on that task. But yeah, this is just like an initially proposed equation, and we can work through it. Okay, so then revenue. Okay, yeah, how does the network earn revenue, and how does that kind of equate to the SDN? So there are different ways that the network can earn revenue. One way can be the network can charge people to submit proposals to the RFPs. Charging a fee might be important because essentially peer review needs to happen for the proposals, and if people don't, you might just get inundated with so many proposals that we don't really have time as a network to review them all. So if people pay a fee, the winning proposals can potentially like get their fees back. So if you believe in your proposal enough that you'll win it, you would pay that fee. It can be a small fee, and that fee can be something that we decide. But that's essentially something that, okay, it's going to take someone's time to review it, and we should give peer reviewers some kind of bounty. The other ways can be like if it develops into a professional network and people are using it for finding like consulting contracts, you can like just charge a fee like that, similar to sites like Upwork. It can be for if we really get to the stage where we're launching spacecraft out there and people can like start to like book time to use it, it can be through that. It can be through commodity futures like helium-3 or asteroid ore. So there are many different ways where that can happen, or it can even be like future like space tourism type tickets. So the rewards engine essentially is what gives the value back to the SDN holders. The proposal bounties, this applies more revenue to the RFPs. The open source bounties provides more in our bank towards the open source bounties. Account 4, that's funding projects. So after an RFP wins, it has a seal of approval, it needs to be funded. Account 4 gives us some money in our bank to fund those projects. Account 5 is the core team. So the core team will initially start off as the founders of Space Decentral, essentially, but we want to grow that core team. So if account 5 increases in value, then we can start to expand the full-time workforce of the network, and more people become part of the core team beyond just the founding team. And then account 6 is land, facilities, and equipment, and that's basically so we can start to build spaceports or cities, manufacturing facilities. So these are our initially proposed values, and we really want to hear your feedback on what you think the distribution of the revenue should be. So these are just like some initial ideas for how we can actually have growth in all of the different areas. But account 6, it is something that account 6 and account 4 are somewhat related, because some of the projects can be related toward the land and facilities. So there's different things like that we need to work out, because there is a lot of crossover between like 2, 3, 4, 6, but it's just trying to be more, if we're more specific with it, we can better plan for the future. So essentially, yes, please, like I said, a lot of the stuff that we have proposed, we really want to hear the feedback from the early community on what they think the distribution should be. Okay, and I think I should probably end it there, because there probably are a lot of questions, and I've kind of gone 30 minutes into it, and I hope it wasn't too confusing.
No.
Yeah, thanks for the great presentation, Yelda. It was definitely good. And props for doing that after an international flight, no less. All right, so now that we're in the discussion period, I want to highlight one of the features of Zoom before we begin that looks like Andy Gonzalez already discovered, which is if you move your cursor over towards the right-hand side of your window, at least I'm on a Windows platform, there's a raise hand button just below all the participants. So if someone else is speaking and you'd like to speak next, you can click the raise hand button so we know that you have something to say, or you can also comment in the group chat at the bottom right. So with that being said, any questions, comments that someone would like to start off with?
Okay, this is Andy Gonzalez. I do have my hand raised. At least I see my hand raised in my window. So can all hear? We can't see, but that's okay. One comment I had on the level of effort, Yolda, is that you threw out a number of proposal as 1,000 pages. It won't be that long because that'd just be an impossible thing for anyone to review or look at on the receiving end. Typically, space mission directed missions at NASA require like 75 pages maximum plus appendices. So I just wanted to, if 1,000 pages frightened people, and it frightened me when I heard that, then it wouldn't be that bad.
Well, I've heard 500 pages though. Like when you get to phase A, right?
Well, if you count out all the work that you've done, you do within the project, yeah, the page count sort of goes out the window. But the actual baseline proposal is actually limited. I mean, by the call to like 50 or 50 pages. In fact, they give you a budget where you can have your pages. And so it gets very tricky to meet that budget, and then you have appendices. So just the level of effort wouldn't be 1,000 pages. If it were, it wouldn't be received.
Well, I think that at least what I heard from Brent Sherwood, definitely you're right. It wasn't 1,000, but he did say it could get to the 500-page level. Like if you're like $1 billion class mission, and like for example the Psyche mission, I know that that was 500 pages and it was still in a competitive cycle whenever it was a 500-page proposal. But I think but that's yeah, if we really reach that level that we're gonna do $1 billion class missions.
The missions that I've been involved in proposing for, $400, $500 million missions, again, the basic proposal level is 50 pages, maybe or thereabouts, and then there's appendices, and that's unlimited. So you can put, people's CV, you can put references, you can do all these things. So it depends how you count it, but the actual guts of the proposal will be quite limited. First of all, to make it easy for you. Second of all, it makes it easy for the reviewer.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. The other question I had, just off the topic, how is Barcelona? I'm going to be there in about 2 months, and so I'm wondering how things are there.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just got here, so
Okay.
I am here to.
Oh, you are in Barcelona now.
Yeah. I just got to Barcelona like 2 hours ago. So.
Oh, okay. You're good.
Yeah. It's a little. The weather is a little chilly, or it's like San Francisco weather, I guess. Bay Area weather.
Okay, so that was what I had to say. I'll take my hand down now. Let's see if I can lower my hand. There's my hand going away. There it is. Okay. All right, good.
More comments, questions? I'm sure people would want to debate the different coefficients and numbers in the formulas that we presented, for example.
Hi. Hello.
Yeah, Saurav, we hear you.
Yeah. So I have some questions, actually, a pretty long list, but I will come one by one. I just want to ask, like, Space Decentral, it is like registered as a company, or how the legal status of it, or maybe how you want to register it further. That is the first question. Next, I think if you are comfortable, maybe like one by one question, so I can ask one by one, and maybe you can answer.
Right now, Space Decentral is doesn't have a legal structure yet. We have Space Cooperative, and that's our corporation. But we wanted Space Decentral to be something that was more open and not tied to any corporation to begin with, because it's easier to figure out more innovative ways to share value cross organization using open source and token economics. So we want to focus on that aspect in the beginning. Just like, okay, it's kind of like Space Decentral. It's a decentralized autonomous organization. And it might not need a legal structure if we have a lot of different businesses that do have legal structures of their own. So that's one thing that is also just in the works from our angle, and something that we're trying to work through with our accountant and lawyer if it needs another corporation or foundation. So work in progress.
And I think I saw the list of projects, like it was proposed by me or many other people. So my question is like we are having some sort of ideas about the initial projects like Luna City or some sort of colony designs and all. So how do you think that to be started? Like initially we have to pick up some sort of projects maybe. So what is your idea about it? Like how to start with that, or maybe how to get the fund about it?
Yeah, so basically for a project to really get going and get moving, we need to assign one person to be kind of like a leader or a coordinator of it. And that's something that we hope can evolve as part of this process, is establishing working groups. And we don't expect like the leaders to be like, oh, this is your boss, but ideally there can be like co-leadership, and it's evolutionary. Leaders might come and go, we want it, but there has to be some at least one person that's helping drive it forward. We need tasks. We need tasks for the projects, and we need to estimate the effort behind those tasks. So we really see that as the kickoff phase. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, we're like brainstorming, and that's fine too. But we wanted to just start it off in this brainstorming phase, see which ideas people started to gravitate towards, and then once we see there's traction there, we can say, okay, well now it's ready. We could start to develop the tasks. But Luna City, that has just been the project that has naturally gotten the most traction. So right now it's really just about like, posting ideas in the forum and seeing what people are excited about, and having these meetings and figuring out how we can like divide and conquer.
The next is like about the website profile. I think I spoke to Susie also. I told about it. I think it is already well distributed. I also we can develop it far better. That is my idea. Like how if we can make some sort of profile which can include the video and some sort of prototype products. Like maybe somebody's from company, somebody's having a lot of research work on it. So if we can actually make a central data of all the personal level research or product or something, to figure out that what can be done from that the person or the team.
Yeah.
As a team or as an individual, that would be, I think, the very good way to initialize that project and distribute. That's one of my ideas, and something that I feel like I am already doing that. Like I'm already proposing a lot of projects internationally and national level in India, and we try to get the funds from, like, let's say I'm from India, so I try for in the US and in the European, lot of countries are there. So they give fund for this kind of big projects, which will be like 2-3 years it will run, and there's an international project in a collaborative way. So I think if we can search for that kind of things also, maybe it's good. Maybe it's a kind of idea to all of you people. Maybe you can all suggest what to be better. And yeah, so that's what I think I have it for now. So maybe all you can suggest what could be better.
Yeah. So as far as like asking like projects or businesses to get funded, we're at a too early of a phase to start that funding process, because it's like we need to raise funding like through the token sale to fund the infrastructure, like the technological tools and infrastructure, since a lot of our mission has to do with this distributed global collaboration, and there is not a great tool set to connect people. So that is the initial focus for the funding or the fundraising that we're going to be doing is so we don't have to use like 10 different tools to collaborate, because that will start to slow things down a lot. And but I mean, I think it's like the other part about getting funded through Space Decentral Network is, I mean, you have to read the white paper and understand that how it's going to work, because it's not going to work in the sense of funding a traditional business, especially with the way equity works for traditional businesses. So, so people kind of have to be on board with how value is shared within our community and within this new model that we're proposing. So, so that's just another thing. We hope that you read the white paper and start to understand that and see how it might not. It's not like a venture funding studio, like something much different than that. We see the business incubation aspect of things. That's probably more like 2019, once we really have like the legal framework in place for how that would work, because it's gonna be in like evolutionary process. So definitely being involved and understanding the value sharing system that we are proposing and contributing ideas to that. Like that's the stage we're at now. So we can think of the different use cases. We're like, oh, well, this project is more science-based, or it's like, oh, this project might be more something that can be monetized. So do we need to treat the way that those are funded differently? But it's going to start to get quite complex. So it's really making sure that we have like the formulas right and that people that are contributing financially, like they're getting the fair share out of that. That's why we didn't want to have it be that purchasing the FTL is a security token, because if someone's contributing financially and they expect an ROI on that investment, then it starts to, you just like reach another class of tokens, and that's not one that we want to work with in the beginning. And that's why we want to actually think about the workers, the knowledge workers of the system, and have the value sharing be on that group of people. So we might get a small amount of FTL maybe from a lot of the knowledge workers. So that's our the model that we're beginning with. We foresee that potentially the people that might be putting more financial capital into the system, that might be more like philanthropists, people that have that have a lot of money, that they just like, they're interested in like space and the future of humanity and think that we need to direct more capital there. So that's why they might be putting in more money and getting more FTL, so they can have that vote for how the work in the network should be prioritized, essentially.
I think the International Astronomical Congress coming in the September 2018 in Bremen, right? So maybe that could be a good place to suppose about this, like all these things that we're doing. And actually, I have a paper. I've submitted one abstract on the joint collaborative platforms for the space entrepreneurship, which is kind of similar to this thing, and not the economical structure or the things that you show now, but it's really good. I mean, the process that you shown, and I think it's very good.
Yeah, I presented there last year, and I also went there 2 years ago, and that's going to the International Astronomical Congress is what made me partly realize that it's like a conference is an old school way of sharing research and sharing ideas. You go there and your paper just remains in the IAF's database. It's like, it would be like, why don't people submit all those ideas to a more public database so everyone can sort through them and filter out what the good or bad ideas are, or to give people peer review after their talk. So what we're trying to do with Space Decentral is evolving on the IAF model in some way, where it's not just you have 1 week to discuss your ideas with people, but it can be an eternity. But you know, so it's not, so you can really get that peer review beyond just the people the 30 or 40 people that show up to your technical session. It's like, how do you open up that peer review to thousands of people? Because that's what happens with the technical sessions. You might just get 10 or 40 people that show up, and it's not that many people. So
maybe
I do
like, okay, please, yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to add on to that point, is that some conferences also stipulate that people who present abstracts or papers don't publish them in other journals or conferences.
Oh, yes.
Which constrains the audience even more. And I think even, especially recently with things like Hyperloop, we're seeing that broadening the audience of people who have access and input to engineering projects is a good thing. And that's one of the things we're trying to do.
okay, sorry, since this meeting is gonna run a little, well, we have like about 28 minutes left, and we want to give other people a chance to ask questions too. And Camille had his hand raised.
Okay, my question is, what's our responsibility and liability in the legal sense? Because Yalda actually said that some people can gain the FTL tokens. I recall it was the FTL tokens via using our vehicles, for example, lunar roving vehicles, robots, and so on. Okay. There is a case for this lunar network, well, the lunar GMS, or the communication network for robots that is going to be established. But my question is, are we going to be just a subcontractor or the owner as a registered company, or an international agency or a transnational agency? Because,
yes.
Well, according to space law, well, we would be some kind of a red herring, something kind of new, something never seen before. But this also reflects on our rights and our values. For example, if somebody crashes our vehicle into a heritage site, how are we liable? Because we are liable via the nation we are registered in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So basically. So once a project becomes funded and it's in the hardware development phase, that's where it is going to need a legal entity behind that. But the company that gets funded, it doesn't necessarily have to be Space Cooperative. It can be one of the companies that's in the network that ultimately takes that on, unless, we decide to form this other like international space authority or what have you. But we think that, once we get to that stage where we're like, okay, we're manufacturing a rover, we're going to send this to the moon, there will be that kind of like evolutionary process to make sure that we have the right corporation that will be backing that. But we're not saying it's not a requirement that it ends up being Space Cooperative. We think that we will see what that corporate entity ends up being when we do actually get to those stages.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I do see that we have quite a few people who haven't chimed in yet. So for anyone who has questions or comments, I do invite you to continue the conversation. No? I do have a question for the group then. So if we take a look at the white paper on page, let's see. Everyone has access right now who's in this chat, right? Yeah? No? I'll assume you do. So one question that I had for the group is, if we look at, where is that page?
How do you get access?
Oh, go ahead and send us your email. You can put it in the chat or PM it to one of us, and we can give you access. It's a Google Doc. Yeah. Page 25, where there's a quality rating breakdown. It's kind of, as Yalda said, it's supposed to, and I'll add you to the doc. It's what it's supposed to do is that way when tasks are being allocated to people, the people who are allocating tasks have an idea of who is reliably completing tasks with a history of doing it well. And I'm curious what experience people have had, if at all, with a similar system like Upwork, I think is the one that y'all have mentioned, and how that's worked out for you.
Upwork doesn't do any multiplications on.
Okay.
But it's like more of a system that you can use to find freelance work.
Huh. So people just kind of have to kind of wing it when they pick someone to do the job?
Well, on Upwork, you either have a fixed contract or, and that contract can have milestones. So it can be like a $2,000 contract, and then you split it up. You get an initial $200 deposit, and if you do that well, the next milestone releases. So you can do milestone based, or it's a fixed rate hourly, and there's a camera that you record yourself. It's like you're recording yourself working essentially, and it takes a screenshot of you working, and that's how it charges your hourly rate. So I don't think doing that is. I don't know what people think about that. Like having it just seems like weird, like Big Brothery,
Well, the tasks already have value associated with them, so like we'll know how much work is required to get something done before they start working on it.
Yeah. So that's the difference. Is we're not trying to charge the hourly thing and record people.
Yeah. No, that would be creepy.
Yeah.
I have done it though, and I don't know. I didn't mind the recording, the screenshot thing, but they do have a system where you get a reputation based on the score, just based on review by the employer. So if you do your job and your employer gives you a good review, you end up with a good reputation. But if you do a good job and your employer simply doesn't review you, your reputation goes down. So it's not a very good, very reliable system.
Huh. That's crummy.
Yeah.
The reputation system is like very much alpha, I would say. It's not, as someone who like kind of helped figure it out, like I don't think it's something that should be remotely considered law at this point. Especially early on, I think it should be like a shorthand for determining like one who's already contributed and been a reliable contributor. But like if someone's new, I don't think a lack of reputation should be counted against them, especially. So.
We do have 20 more minutes budgeted for the community meeting, so it is a good time to raise questions or comments that are easier to deal with in person, as close to in person as you can get with this.
Okay, so I'm interested in this koala IP thing from the white paper.
Sure. Questions or comments? Yeah, it's definitely an interesting...
No, questions, because, I'm used to working with traditional European or American patents, but not with the koala thing. So how does it work?
Yellow, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a research type item, and it's something that we need to figure out how it would fit into our projects. But it's like a JSON type way to attribute that, like you attach that to a deliverable. So, for example, it can be like, say we're hosting a proposal or something, and then we can use this JSON framework to attribute like who had worked on it. So this is something it's still a research item in our white paper, but it is a way to kind of start to have that more in the blockchain, especially as we move our project and like the token attribution system. Like we intend to tie that to this type of intellectual property framework.
So would it include also patent authorship? The authorship of patents?
I'm not sure. Like you mean like a fully fledged patent, like filing a U.S. patent, or more like in this
European patent, U.S. patent? You know, many people work on some projects, but only few get the authorship. Well, it's not like in the academia when you have 15 names, which all are those the director, the CEO, and so on, and the one who actually done the study is the last one mentioned. No, I mean, if everyone, for example, we had 30 people working on a invention, for example, a system for regulative disposal from from the interiors of a interiors or the like not the carpet, the whole of the robot or any other such a device. So would it work with it, or would we actually try to attribute it the classical way?
I would recommend probably just like reading more about their specs on their GitHub, the Koala AP specs. Like I said,
Okay.
this is still like a research item for us. So, but this is what we've been looking through just because it's like a JSON type framework. So we think it's, as far as it like the legal enforceability of it, you know, that's like unsure, but this is like think of it like a Creative Commons license, but like more on the blockchain type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but using a standard JSON framework.
And looks like Justin has a question in the chat. He said, if I have a project for people to work on, how do I go about posting that? So right now, I guess to break down that question a bit, if you have a project, so first would be creating a project, and that would be addressed in table 5.3, page 18 of the white paper. And that's the process we have in mind for taking something from an idea all the way up to a fully fledged project. The second part of your question, for people to work on, task creation is definitely part of that process. And then assigning value to those tasks and then assigning people to complete those tasks is another thing that's kind of outlined in this white paper right now through y'all's presentation. As for posting that, right now our forum on Space Decentral is active. So right now you could definitely start a post and then just gather interest and commentary. And we are working on debugging the Google Drive integration. So the first steps that are a very realistic near-term option for you would be to create a post, generate some interest and some discussion, build, at least informally at the moment, a team. And then once we have Drive integration debugged, we could start putting together reference documents, stuff like that. Does that answer your question fully?
And then just one other aspect of that is, you know, since our projects, they're going to be tied to this SDN token, it's like we have to come to some kind of a community consensus that it is a project that people want to contribute to. So like we're kind of like the first level of voters, essentially. If nobody in Space Decentral right now would want to work on that project, then it's probably like not valid for it to be an activated project until there is some interest in there. Because, as a community, we can't just be minting the SDN tokens to just any random idea. So there has to be like this vetting process that, oh, hey, we think that this project is important enough and we're going to budget this much SDN toward it. So like Patrick was saying, like the first way for us to figure out the interest level is to start this discussion, grow a community around it, and then we imagine in the next few weeks, we're hoping there can be a lot of different ideas and we can start to have that first meeting for, okay, how should we start to allocate the SDN tokens against these projects? So that's just like the other, missing link of it is for those tasks to actually have the SDN tokens, it needs to go through more of this like governance and vetting procedure.
Looks like we've got 12 more minutes.
So how many people do you currently have as members?
Like people that are the membership class? Well, since we haven't really kicked off the process, we're just assuming that whatever you see on the founding team of the white paper, like, and the advisors, those can be considered the initial members. But it's still kind of in this very pre-phase of things being official, because the tokens don't really physically, or they don't technologically exist yet. So I guess maybe 12 people.
Or would you want to wait till things are more fleshed out to really start like spreading the word on a big scale, or would it be useful to have like a lot of people on board and then and then they're there and then things can evolve?
Well, that's why we were just sharing the white paper to people that have showed up in our community meeting right now, the full white paper, like people that showed up in the community meeting right now and in our Telegram. So we wanted to work with you all, the community, to see what your thoughts are and help us flesh out the membership section, what you think it requires to be a member. And then hopefully, like, we want probably within 2 weeks to get that peer review from you guys here, and then we can start to release the full white paper. So that's something that's what we're trying to go towards, because it's like as a company, yeah, we've been talking about like this white paper and these logistics for almost a year now, and we want to have that sanity check now with more of the world, but not the entire world yet. To have that peer review within like you all here, and then we can do that. So we're hoping 2 weeks is whenever we'll release that white paper that will actually say, oh, to be a member, it will require whatever, $100 and 100 hours worth of like work, something like that. But it's like nothing, like membership, it's nothing that precludes people from contributing. It's just more about like, figuring out what the right level of skin in the game is to get that voting share, so the system is not hacked, because that can happen. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what you covered earlier in the call. I missed the beginning, but I'll read through the paper. I've known you guys. I've known about this for quite a while. From gosh, 2 years ago. When was Austin? A long time ago. Anyway, but I was realizing, I'm not even sure if I signed up like officially on the website, which I always thought I would do. And then I have to go and check that. So I will catch up. It's really interesting. So after 2 weeks, what would be sort of the next phase of things?
Well, we were planning on having another community meeting, and in that one we can talk more about the projects and working groups and how those can get moving more. We need to, like within our network right now, you'll see that there are 9 missions. We're probably going to rename that to programs. But essentially, we're going to have to do community development to see who wants to help be the coordinator of those programs, that wants to really help with the project management and task development. There's only so much that we can do ourselves. So that's one aspect of it, of seeing who does want to help formulate these working groups, formulate the tasks, because it's really like things aren't going to move forward unless we start to have tasks. And a lot of us, people are, just like still contributing part-time from their normal jobs, like Space Decentral or Space Cooperative. It's not our full-time job. So it's going to be like a slow process until we do have that funding for people to be full-time. So that's why it's just kind of like, it's up to the community to help, and we can figure out ways that, okay, if someone does want to be a coordinator or a leader of a project, that can also be something that accelerates like that membership share or things like that. So we think that, we want to try to figure out, how can we get to that stage faster where people are contributing, work's being done, knowledge is being captured. But that's essentially like the next stage is we have to enhance the platform for our forum to have more robust features. And that's a lot of the stuff that, we are working on. And then the other aspect is, we have to start to build a wiki within our network, so we can start to capture the different like mission designs beyond like a Google Doc, make the enhancements to the drive. So we're focused on like a lot of the software stuff and figuring out the financing stuff from our business angle at the moment.
So would it be helpful to have like more, well, I saw that there was like the example project of the satellites, but would it be helpful to have more sample projects?
It's not about having sample projects, but more leaders, people that want to help with the coordination and project management. That's what we need for the projects. It's not about the ideas, but it's about the people that want to help coordinate the community around the different ideas.
I'd say another area of where people can contribute is trying to help formulate a structure for knowledge capture. So how we should create a framework for the wikis and how we should document and maybe even initialize all these different missions we have. So even if it's whether it be on like the software development level or more project management level, I think those frameworks are very important for any sort of.
I just want to say that I love the Star Trek sound effect back there, whoever that was.
My tricorder is going off, sorry.
That's Sean's infamous ringtone, or text tone.
Oh, man. All right, so we got 4 more minutes in this meeting before we close up. So to kind of, in brief, summarize what's going on, please take a look at the white paper, and we'd love to hear your commentary on what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how it is one of our core values to make this a collaborative process. And it might be space decentral, but we can't just push it into a vacuum and see how it goes. We have to actually, iterate, revise, iterate, and without community feedback, the tool wouldn't really work for the community now, would it? So please give us your feedback and comment on Telegram, participate in Space Decentral. Any other closing comments out there before we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say definitely homework assignment is reviewing the white paper. So and use the commenting tool in the Google Docs to add your feedback there. And we won't be offended if you think it's really bad and we need to tear out this section or something. Just let it all out, please. And yeah, ideally before 2 weeks. So that's the deadline is within 2 weeks. So I'm not sure if we'll figure out if the next community meeting will be in 2 weeks or not. I'm going to be in Berlin, but yeah, right now I'm on a European tour of sorts in Barcelona, and then doing a talk in Paris, and then I'm doing a talk in Berlin. So it's kind of in a travel-y phase for myself.
Are you going to come to Poland?
I don't know. Radek's in Poland. Are you guys in the same city? Maybe I'll figure it out. Maybe.
Close enough.
Yeah.
I think I might be in Budapest. I don't know how far that is.
Not too far, to be honest.
Yeah, can have a meetup there.
Would you want to present in the end of May in LA at the National Space Society's conference?
Patrick is presenting there on Martian building codes.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah. And another member
what
who's
about
not here
like
will be
Space
there too.
Decentral stuff, or what do you think it's going to be like?
Well, I think Patrick submitted 2 abstracts, and one was for the Space Decentral one, and I think they didn't accept that one because they had selected just his other one. I don't know if it was because it was if I had submitted it under my name, maybe they would have, because I think Patrick was saying they weren't selecting 2 from that many people.
From the same people.
Yeah,
well, because I'm actually helping organize it, and they're having a business track. Like one of the themes is business. So I mean, it seems like they should definitely have you if you are ready to, like, if you want to be there, if you want to announce things yet.
Yeah. So to clarify the submission thing, so I submitted 3, and in the confirmation email they said of all the people who submitted stuff, only one person had 2 abstracts submitted and accepted. But it might be just for that specific symposium rather than the conference as a whole, because I did submit Space Decentral to that business track that you mentioned, Gabriella. So we'll see, because I haven't heard anything from other leaders of the different symposiums at the conference. It was only from the symposium I was accepted to. But I'll definitely see you there, along with another member.
I'll investigate that. I mean, there's other time slots available that aren't sort of technically the sessions, because there's this sort of weird space, like 5 o'clock space between like the sessions ended and the dinners haven't started and the reception hasn't started, and they're looking to fill some spaces. So we'll talk. I think
I can get something.
Sounds great. Yeah. Thanks for the heads up. All right, and it is 12:31. So with that, I think we'll conclude our second community meeting. I want to thank you all for attending, for giving your focus and attention to Yalda during her presentation, and for participating. I will see you in space and at the next community meeting.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Long and prosper.